Business owners in Havelock North are considering taking a class action to get compensation for what's expected to be big losses due to the town's water crisis. All Havelock North primary and intermediate schools will remain closed until next week. The latest official figures say up to 3,000 households have been hit by the Campylobacter gastric outbreak. The decision to keep primary and intermediate schools closed was made after talks between principals, government departments and local authorities at a meeting this afternoon. In a moment, we'll hear from the local MP, Craig Foss. But first, a short time ago, I spoke with Tamata Primary School Principal Mike Bain and asked him how they decided which schools would stay open and which schools would close.
Based on the ability of our kids to deal with hygiene issues and for us to meet the standards, Woodford, Iona and Havelock High School are opening again. However, Havelock North Intermediate, Te Mata, Havelock Primary and Lucknow School, as well as Havelock School, are closing on Thursday and Friday and will reopen on Monday.
OK, so I guess I can conclude that the littler kids, the younger kids, the primary schools are staying shut because they're less well able to cope with personal hygiene issues?
Yeah, that's the advice from Ministry of Health. They're concerned about the spreadability of this. It was pretty clear that the council is confident in their ability to deal with the water issues as long as people are also boiling. However, sanitary and hygiene issues for younger students and early childhood students is certainly more risky, and so we're making that decision based on that.
So the majority of schools are remaining closed for the rest of the week?
Yep, correct.
And how do you feel about the situation having arisen as a result of a contaminated municipal water supply?
Look, my feelings aside, I think there'll be plenty of time for debate around who's to blame and when will it end. Our biggest concern is looking after our families, looking after our kids, keeping everyone safe and preventing the spread of this contamination. So, hence we're making this decision. The real at risk are the young and the elderly. And primary schools and our local intermediate in Havelock have decided that the risk is too great. So, hence the move. The public debate around who's to blame and what's next really isn't my picture.
Michael, when did you start seeing sick children at schools in the Havelock North area?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, John. I mean, there's been a feeling that there's something wrong for a little while, but, primary schools always seem to have a tummy bug of some kind running around in them. No definitive thoughts other than an increasing mass of kids through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We were thinking, this is a bit scary. By Friday, it was horrific. By Monday, that was another story. So roughly 300 kids away from our school, sent another 30-odd home. Look, no real picture on how many of those were actually sick versus parents exercising a precaution. But I still imagine those same sort of ratios are likely to be continuing. So, there'll be a huge population base that will be sick, and there'll be a large base who are very wary of getting sick. And equally, those that have had symptoms for 48 hours aren't allowed back either. So staff and children, if you've been ill in the last 48 hours, you can't return to work or to school.
Right, so you had 300 kids away, you sent another 30 home from a total roll of what?
Yep. About 600.
So roughly half your children were either sick or being held at home?
Yep, correct. And a similar picture at both Havelock North Intermediate, similarly at the high school, Havelock Primary the same, Lucknow the same. So pretty much on Monday we were running at about half rolls. No real picture where, again, is saying between sick versus well and precautionary, but we were running at about 50% of our rolls, and probably picture that that's the likely picture for the remainder of the week. So, hence, let's keep everyone safe. Ministry of Health today clearly said that for primary school age children, that they would prefer Monday to be a reopening date in order to see a better clarity on what, and hopeful decline on what may be a diminishing contamination.
Te Mata Primary School Principal Mike Bain, and that figure of roughly half of the children staying away from school because they were infected or being held back seems to be fairly consistent throughout Havelock North. The MP for Tuki, which includes Havelock North, is Craig Foss. I spoke to him this afternoon and asked him whether he has done enough for his constituents.
Absolutely, but this is not about me. This is not about politics. This is not about anyone. This is about our families, our kids, been very frazzled at the absolute end of our tethers, having to boil water in 2016, and each and every one of us will fully expect we would not have to do that, and everyone is pretty much at the end of their tether.
What do you think is responsible for this outbreak? Where did the contamination come from?
Well, I don't know. I'm not the expert. All the tests are going on in the 3 bores around the Te Mata area of Havelock North. They've been tested they're normally tested by the council, and the DHB have talked about when they were notified when they started to get a negative test. We've got to note very, very importantly, as the council, Hastings District Council, have said, they are responsible for delivering clean drinking water to their community and obviously Havelock North. They have stood up and taken the responsibility. There is an independent inquiry coming, and I'm sure that will find some of the gaps or find out what's gone on or gone wrong or where it's gone on and who told who when. They are serious issues which need answering. I'm, like any other resident, very frustrated about that, but right now all focus has got to be on managing the issue.
If we look at Havelock North's water supply, July 2013, bacterial contamination is present in the Havelock North water supply. That's Hastings District Council. December 2014, Hawke's Bay Today, harmful bacteria and wastewater being released into the Tuki River at unacceptable levels. March 2015, problems at a wastewater treatment plant discharging partially treated sewer into the prominent Hawke's Bay River. October 2015, the water had to be treated with chlorine after E. coli contamination. At the same time, bore 3 there was closed. Where is your track record as the local MP of standing up and saying this simply isn't good enough?
I stand up for my community every single day, John. I live here, my family's here. This is my home. And every single day I actually resent the implication of what you're saying.
Okay, so meaningfully, on the record, where is your record of saying, hey, let's sort the water out?
The issues that you talk about, all those issues are of the Hastings District Council or of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, and the common theme to what you've described is water. Water issues in Hawke's Bay, they're quite prevalent. They always are.
So why is this still going on when it's been going on for years, when there's been E. coli contamination, when one of the bores has been closed? Why is the town of Havelock North still getting its water from an aquifer that is frequently contaminated with fecal matter?
Well, you'll have to ask the health DHB and the scientists about that. Remember, the aquifers in Hawke's Bay, this is a separate aquifer to the aquifer that serves Hastings and everywhere else. So the history of this particular aquifer, you will have to address to them or these particular bore. I think they understand they get tested regularly, and it was not until last week where all of these issues started to present themselves in a pretty bad and astounding way.
Is this good enough?
No, this is not good enough in 2016. Absolutely not. I'm very angry. I'm very frustrated, like everyone else here. Families, parents, having to look after families, having to look after boil water and all those kind of things, as well as all of our business community. No, that part's not good enough. Right now, until we find out how and why, what happened with the council, we can't really go much further. A lot of misinformation is out there, and that is not helpful and distracting those that are trying to fix this issue from the job they're trying to do.
Craig Foss, the MP for Tuki, talking to me a short time ago.